couple of weeks ago, I released a video on upgrading the dust extraction path to my table saw blade guard hood. I'll put a picture of that below, and if you haven't seen that video, I'll pop a link up above and down below in the description. And the improvement it made to the dust extraction on the table saw was really good. I was pleasantly surprised, but there's still more that I can do. This is the insert that came with my table saw all those many moons ago. And here's one of the blades I use. So you can see the amount of clearance around the blade is quite excessive. But that also allows for dust extraction around the blade. So my aim will be to reduce this slot and therefore increase the space this side of the blade. Now at this point I need to mention Dennis and Hooked on Wood. So Dennis made a zero clearance insert and did rather a spiffing job of it as well. It's a piece of art more than a zero clearance insert. And to some extent I'm going to duplicate what Dennis did, but credit to Dennis. So I've conducted some tests myself. So this was one that I made a long time ago, literally just zero clearance, no opportunity for dust to be sucked down through the bottom of the table saw. This was one that started off based on Dennis's design. I've put a finger hole there. I haven't put a hole there in this one, as you can see, and a couple of slots, and the dust extraction from this was really quite poor. The next one I made was a lot closer to Dennis's design. So I've got the two slots here, I've got an extra one there and an extra one here right at the front of the blade. So enough chat, let's get stuck into actually cutting the new insert out of this wonderfully green coloured MDF that I've managed to get my hands on. What a lovely shade of green. Eat your heart out, Dennis. So in order to get that size as tight as possible, what I'm doing is placing it in the slot and just giving it a wee tap, nothing too hard, and hopefully you can see that there's a little mark left there where it's catching, and that's the only place it's catching at the moment. So I'll go back to the disc sander, sand that little bit off, try it again. This time, however, instead of placing it in the hole and tapping from that end, I'm going to use a black marker pen and push it up to the end that I know is good. Give it a little tap down and I can see exactly where I've got contact to. So I'm going to cut the slot for the blade next. And again, credit to Dennis, this is a brilliant idea. Put your insert in the recess, slide your fence up. Nice and tight. And you have the perfect set for the blade slot. So I'm winding my blade up to its full height. And then as I'm pushing it through, once this aligns with the edge of the slot, I know it's in the perfect place. So as you saw me do just now, I've marked the back edge of the riving knife because I need to fit a little filler in here to keep that spaced out and return some rigidity to the insert. And what I don't want to do is to bring that piece forward too much and then for the riving knife to foul it, because if it does, it will lift this piece as I raise the blade, and it may alter the position and catch the blade and poof. And I don't want that. So I have a piece of material here that is the perfect size that I'm going to use. So I'm going to glue that in with a bit of tight bond, and then while that's going off, I'm off for a coffee. See you after that. Okay, so that's my fillet cut and sanded nice and flat. And next, for the all-important dust evacuation method. So this is the close copy to the one made by Hooked on Wood, Dennis. And this is what I've decided to go with. As mentioned earlier, with these slots and this size hole, that piece has got quite a bit of flex. This has got far less flex. Now I appreciate that it's got less flex because there's more timber present, less has been taken away, but the circles are inherently stronger than that one weak piece. And in tests, the ability for the dust extractor to suck the dust down away was very similar in the two pieces. I'm not going to cut this thumb hole in the first instance because I want to see whether that will improve the flow out of these if I leave that out. And these are just big enough for me to get my little pinkies in. So in order to drill those, I need to mark out for the supports underneath so that I don't drill through where the supports are. And I also need to mark out for my screw hole. I'm sighting down above the slot and putting pencil marks on the top of the table. Then I can drop my insert in back to front. That was embarrassing. And transfer the marks. So the nice man from DPD has just delivered some new Forstner bits right in the nick of time. So I'm using an 18mm bit. The size of my piece that I'm cutting into is a Navia soup saw over 25mm, 25.27 apparently. So that gives me about 3 mil either side, just under 3 mil either side. So if I take from center of bit, 18 would be 9 mil, plus the 3 mil I want to the right hand side, 12 mil, and mark as such there. Then I've got 21 mil between each plunge. Does that make sense? I hope so. Look at that. 21 mil. Who'd have thought? So I'm hoping to get 3 in here. Might have to play with those a little bit to ensure I get sufficient spacing in between. But that's what I got. Lots of holes to the drill press. So whether this does make a difference or not, I don't really know. I believe it will. By rounding over the corners, it should allow the air to travel through with less turbulence. I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to do it to the top anyway because it just makes it look better. So I have a little 3.2 mil round over bit in my Bosch palm router. And now to cut the slots on the bottom to allow the 80mm MDF to sink down flush with the top of the table saw. So my pocket rule now gives me the height that I need remaining after the router cut, taking out the pencil line. The completed design. I can see one flaw in my plan. What I never gave any thought for was the difference in colour between that fillet and this screen, and the green makes that fillet look absolutely pink, and I'm not sure I like it. But time for the dust trials. So in order to make this a clean and fair fight, I'm going to keep the saw blade at exactly the same height for each cut, and I'm going to use the same piece of MDF. This piece 28mm just happens to have a piece of veneer on each side, but it's just an offcut that I've got hanging around. So I'm going to keep the blade at exactly the same height. I'm going to use exactly the same piece of waste material to cut, and I will advance the fence by 2mm each time. So each cut is going to be a 2mm cut, and we'll see how it goes. I must admit I'm quite surprised by the result. In previous tests off camera before the video, the slotted version outperformed this Holy version. Obviously removing this thumb hole has increased the downdraft through these holes and improved the dust extraction. So I'm delighted. This is me being delighted. I'll still need this for bevel cuts. Obviously this won't allow bevel cuts, but very pleased indeed. One extra thing I did purely for aesthetic value was to put the roundover all around the end. So before I pop it in the saw and start using it in earnest, I'll give it a clean up, get rid of those pencil lines, but very pleased indeed. So I think the message that I'd like to give to you is, if you're going to consider making a zero clearance insert or a dust extraction improvement insert with zero clearance abilities as well, then I would urge you to make some tests on your table saw with your setup and see which design is best for you. And that brings this video to an end. Thanks very much indeed for watching. I hope you enjoyed my antics in the workshop. If you did, give us a like, and why not hit the subscribe button. See you next time. Ta-ra!